The talk today, the topic is basically publishing add-ons in the marketplace. So I'm basically going to be walking through kind of the architecture of how the add-ons marketplace works and how you can actually take your service or your software that you've built and are providing today and integrate it into the API, into the Twilio platform. So just a little bit of refresher on what add-ons are. Add-ons are basically a way for third-party providers to add their functionality to extend the Twilio platform at various points. We provide a catalog of the add-ons that we have accepted from our providers, where people can discover them and install them with just a simple click, one-click install. They can then configure these to work against various points in the Twilio API. And the way this is usually exposed in the initial version of this is we are either enhancing the webhooks that come back from Twilio or the responses that come back from a REST request with additional query information or analysis of the information that we've passed off to the provider. In this case, this is an example of an SMS, an incoming SMS that has an add-on attached to it, where if you look, you can see by having an add-on installed, you get this add-on parameter back from the webhook that is providing an analysis of the message body that it received. This could be a sentiment analysis. This could be a bot describing what it thinks you should say in response. It could be did this person opt in or opt out? Various use cases that could do analysis against the phone numbers or the messaging body can be exposed here. So how do you go about building an add-on? The first step today is that you probably should have an HTTP-based API that you have exposed to the internet that we can go and hit. And what we're doing is basically we have this manifest language that we're using to describe how Twilio connects off to a provider, describes the information that we're sending to them and how that information is received back and populated into the Twilio product environment, as well as how to charge for it and how to present it. So the first step is determining the add-on type. We have two sort of broad classifications of add-on types, synchronous and asynchronous. The most of the add-ons we have today are synchronous. These are the phone number or the messaging analysis add-ons that Pat and Devarshi talked about yesterday. Synchronous are executed in the product execution path. What this means is when you do a lookup API request or you receive an incoming phone call or SMS message, the Twilio platform is actually blocking and fanning out to all of the add-ons that have been installed on that product line and hitting those providers and providing them information they have that they need and getting the responses back in parallel and then returning that in the webhook or the REST request response. The advantage of this is you can take that information that's looked up at that point in time, and as a developer, you can make decisions based on that information. You can block incoming spam calls. You can route messages based on the intent or the sentiment or the content. You can make real-time decisions, and your program can actually react to it. But the requirements around this are that we have a pretty strict performance SLA because it's blocking the actual platform execution. It's got to come back in sort of the millisecond range. So it's like, the tens or hundreds of milliseconds. So those kind of add-ons have a pretty strict requirement around performance. The other type of add-ons we have are asynchronous. The recording add-ons that we're going to be releasing in a little while are an example of asynchronous add-ons. So a recording finishes, and we post out that data to the provider who's actually going to process the recording and do a transcription or a sentiment analysis or some other deep, complex analysis of that piece of data. And that might be returned in the minutes or hours or days. So it's a very, very, very permissive SLA on those type of add-ons. And each of those add-ons, when they install them, will largely have a webhook of their own that we will, the provider will hit us back and say, I've completed this analysis and here are the results, and then we'll turn around and hit the developer with the proper Twilio signatures and security settings to inform them of the results of that add-on. So when you're thinking about how you'd want to expose your service, you have to think about first which of these two you should actually be targeting. The next thing we need to go over are integration points. Integration points are basically the places in the Twilio platform where add-ons can be invoked. That is, in the case of what we've released today, the incoming SMS and the incoming voice and the lookups API are the 3 integration points that we've sort of launched as of yesterday. And the recording completion integration point will be coming soon. But the plan is to add many, many, many of these integration points to the platform. Each integration point provides different data. So when you do a lookup API request, you're really only providing the phone number that you want to query. And so any add-on that is built against the lookup API needs to expect to receive that phone number and that phone number pretty much by itself, unless you're getting some extra side channel data at request time. An incoming SMS and an incoming voice call also have phone numbers associated with them. So if you write a plugin that can analyze one phone number, it can be applied to different integration points, such as incoming voice, incoming SMS. In the case of an incoming voice call, you have an additional piece of information, which is the phone number being dialed, as opposed to the caller ID that's coming in. So you actually have 2 phone numbers now that you could actually work with. And then you could build an add-on that would only work with an incoming voice call and could do analysis of like this. I've received lots of calls from this caller ID, or I've received lots of random calls to this one phone number, and do more advanced like routing analysis or things like that to determine spam or other abusive behaviors. And then third, the SMS, you get the to number, the caller ID, and the from number, and the body of the message. So you could write, if something is being written against that integration point, you'll have these 3 types of information. But that won't be usable. That would be a messaging add-on. It wouldn't be usable by an incoming voice call or incoming or a lookup API call, because you would have different sort of pieces of information to work with. And in the case of recording, you're going to get the recording bytes and the codec it's in, and the duration, which will be a completely different set of information you can work with. Integration points also provide sort of a configuration setting for the developer in the console. So when you do an installation of an add-on in the console, you'll see checkboxes at the bottom about where you want that turned on or not. So if an add-on is applicable to many product lines, people can checkbox those and turn them on or off as they see fit. This provides an easy way for people to kind of experiment with it and turn it on and off as they install them, without having to go in and do a lot of rewriting of their code and add new calls. So this is a little bit further description of the data that you're getting in these various cases, and kind of how they map to sort of the general concepts that Pat presented yesterday of a phone number add-on or a messaging add-on or recording add-on. Lookup API, like I said before, provides a phone number, the ISO country of the phone number. So if you want to do things like, say, I only want to accept US queries or Canadian queries or French queries or things like that, you can actually do filtering on that information. Incoming voice provides a little bit more information. Incoming SMS provides even further with the message body, and then recordings provides a different set of information. You'll notice in the lookup API, you also have the ability to have request time data. This means that you can provide, if you want, you can provide extra side channel data for your lookup, for your add-on that lets you do extra informational queries. So there's a TCPA plugin in the marketplace right now that asks for a date, so you can see when a phone number changed ownership. So you can provide a phone number through the normal lookup interface, but you can also say, for this add-on, please pass through the date that I want to query on, and it will tell you whether or not the phone number's changed since that date is passed. So any lookup API add-ons you create can also take these side channels. Because incoming voice and incoming SMS use cases don't provide anybody the chance to provide a runtime piece of metadata, that won't be available for those. The next thing you have to build, once you've decided what kind of add-on you're building and sort of how it's going to behave, is the AddOn specification. This is basically a set of templated metadata that we ask for that describes how to reach your API endpoints and kind of make the request into your system, and then how to understand and consume and pass on the responses that you send back. This is basically, it's a JSON template to start with. So it's a structured document that has replacement values in it. And these replacement values are things like the caller ID or the message body, or a set of dictionary information that we provide, like the item potency token for this request, or the account SID, or things like that. The data line template basically needs to be mapped to the integration points you're choosing to use. So if you're building out a template that is an SMS add-on, it's gonna need a body field to it, and that means you can't map it to incoming voice integration points. The choice of integration points that you've made for your add-on determine what values you have available for your templating. So if you choose every possible integration point that has a phone number in it, you won't be able to use the extra fields that some of the other integration points offer you. Basically, if your API supports HTTP and can take a GET method with query parameters, a POST method with www form URL encoded, or application JSON, we can make a request to you today. And then the only thing we have to require is that you send us an application JSON response body. We can't currently accept XML or any other structured formats. We need to have an application JSON today. This is an example of a template that we have for just doing a simple post param request. You see we just specify the URL. You can see the templating parameters in the body there. And then it's basically just specifying kind of like you would with a testing tool. It's like, these are the query parameters I want to send. These are the headers I need to send for authentication or something. And then this is each place where you see the curly bracket, the double curly brackets, that's going to be replaced by Twilio with the runtime request the developer has made as we request out to your system. The second thing that we have to do when we're setting up an add-on is specify the request and response validation. Request validation is basically, did you get enough information to make the request to your service, or are there any special restrictions your service offers that requires before you can do a query? Many of the providers that we have today only have support for US or Canadian phone numbers, so they don't want us to be querying them with, we can't take like a French or a Somali or Australian phone number and pass it off to them because they know it's never going to actually return a valid result, and they don't want to give people a bad experience. They'd rather just have you skip over their add-on if an invalid request is made. In the cases where they want extra metadata, you want to make sure that you're validating that it's there and to start with before you send the query off, and that's what these request validation pieces are. These are JSON schemas, which are sort of an evolving standard for doing schema validation for a JSON document. So you basically describe these things as JSON schemas, and we will apply them to the data coming in from our various integration points, and if they don't match, then we'll either ignore the add-on in the case of like an incoming call or incoming SMS, or if they were explicitly requested as part of like the lookup API, we'll send a message back saying we couldn't fulfill this request because we didn't have the relevant information. The second part here is response validation. Response validation is also a JSON schema. We apply this schema to the response that comes back from your service. And this is determined, this is used to determine a couple things. One, if you had a problem but you still returned us a 200 OK, did we get valid results back from you? And for people who want to, like, they want to charge for every single request that goes out and they want to send a response back, this is a way for us to validate that we really got exactly what you wanted to send back out. Some people have APIs that they designed to send a 200 OK back but still send a like error equals true in the response, and then therefore you don't want to actually pass that back to the user, or you don't want to charge for it. So the validation schema is used for a couple purposes. One is to make sure that anomalous problems did not make it back to the user. Two is to make sure that you don't bill for anything you didn't want to bill for. If your API wants to query something that is not a very, like, an example is basically some APIs want to query for want to bill for every single query because they expect a very, very high success rate, and that's just how they've structured their licensing. Some APIs have a very low success rate. They're like, please hit us because we might take that phone number and turn it into a social profile or something like that, but we only succeed 15% of the time. We don't want to charge for every single request because that would be a horrible customer experience. Please only charge on a successful request. So you can use the request validation and the response validation schemas as a way of triggering whether or not something should be billed for or not. Finally, and this is a kind of obscure but fairly important, is because we are taking the responses that are coming back from your API, and if this was an API that you designed for sort of public consumption, there's probably going to be a lot of fields in your response that you don't want to return back in the Twilio payload. Many APIs have the pricing that they're using for their public API returned as part of as a field in their response bodies. A lot have hypermedia that refers to their API and not Twilio's API that won't make any sense and will probably be somewhat destructive to kind of reveal to people in the Twilio payload. Some people have random UUIDs, or occasionally you see like credentials passed back. So we provide a mechanism for cleaning the responses that come back before we present them to the customers. This is using a technology called JSON path, which is very much like XML path. It's just a kind of a pattern matching string where we can go through and say anything that matches this pattern, please excise from the response before we pass it back. In this case, we're taking the UUID and the URL fields out of the return payload from the vendor and handing that off to the developer in a cleaned fashion. So just to wrap that up, specification templates determine how requests are made to the provider. Integration points determine what data is available for templating. Request validations make sure that only supported requests are made, and response validation makes sure only successful requests are billed for. And then path cleaning removes all the inappropriate, unnecessary fields from the response. We also have the security features that we already offer through the normal Twilio webhooks are going to be applicable to this with some modifications a little bit. We'll only support HTTPS only. We never want any plain text HTTP responses going from us to our providers. And we're going to make sure that's always the latest sort of supported TLS, and that will be kind of enforced on our side. We offer fixed IPs for whitelisting, so you can flip a flag in your account, and we will only send requests from the Twilio marketplace to your service over a set of fixed IPs, so you can actually whitelist the requests coming in against these IPs to know it's coming from Twilio. All requests are signed with the Twilio signature header, which means we're doing an HMAC SHA signature of the request we're making to you. So you can guarantee it's coming from Twilio and use your account credentials to validate that signature on top of everything else. And we also have, as part of the standard dictionary of parameters we're allowed to pass through to you in your templating, a unique idempotent request SID that comes back as part of every request that we're going to bill for. And that's sort of the unique identifier for that attempt to your service. If we retry, it will always be the same, so you can check for retries on our side. Do the appropriate behavior, but also make sure that shows up in the signature and guarantee you can't be affected by replay attacks. And sort of a feature roadmap, kind of moving forward, coming reasonably soon will be the async add-on support along with recording. So being able to trigger add-ons that aren't part of the execution path, and there's various use cases for that. The actual recording integration point itself, which will allow you to, as recording is finished throughout the Twilio infrastructure, be able to have the bytes posted up to your service. You can do your own analysis on that and then post back to us at a agreed upon endpoint where we will pass your result sets back to our users based on the URLs that they've configured on their add-on when they installed it. Another nice feature that we're working on is developer add-on configuration. So the ability for when you create an add-on to actually specify additional configuration settings that you want us to gather from the developer when they do the installation. So for example, if you're doing a transcription add-on for recordings, you might want to specify what language you want to operate in when you're doing the installation. You might say, I want this to be I'm installing this transcription add-on from vendor foo, and I want it to only work in Russian, or that's my chosen language. So when they install it, they could pick from a drop-down Russian or max length or certain other settings, and we will save that as part of the configuration of that add-on, pass that down to you when we're making the request when they invoke it, and you'll be able to use that information to determine how your system processes it. Another feature that we're considering is installation lifecycle callbacks. So when somebody installs the add-on, we will actually make a webhook off to you kind of synchronously saying, this is the installation ID, this is the configuration data they provided. We're informing you of this. You have the option of denying it potentially for security reasons if you'd like, but you also have the option of creating sub-accounts in your system or provisioning resources or throughput on your side to actually manage that installation with a entity on your system, so you can do more interesting things like some examples are some of the AI use cases, being able to say all of these add-on requests that we received are part of the same context, and therefore we can train and learn this person's use case or this developer's use case if they'd like. Also with that, you'd have uninstall, so when somebody uninstalls the add-on, you would get a callback as well that would inform you that that happened, and you could deprovision resources on your side. Along with that is single sign-on, the idea that the documentation and sort of homepage for the add-on would be able to link off to your own web interface and do a single sign-on flow there, so they could actually go and link off to a more advanced user interfaces or tools that you've built around your product from the Twilio site in a secure way to basically manage it in a more detailed fashion. We're also considering more advanced billing models. So right now everything is transactional based. You would set a price on the add-on, and every time we invoke it and we got the successful response back that passed the response validation, we would bill for that transaction. Alternate models are duration based for recording. So if I receive a 5-minute recording versus a 30-second recording, I want to charge a different amount. So that would be a different model that we would have in place to support that use case. We're also considering subscription-based billing. So if somebody installed your module, you could say this is a $20 a month module. We're not billing transactionally. We're just billing monthly, and that's kind of how you'd have that option as well. Today, the provisioning process for an add-on is basically manual. So we're submitting forms to us, and we're going and working with you to get these things installed. In the future, we'd like to have a self-service UI. So you guys could come in and actually set up all of your integration points and your specifications and try them out and test them yourself against your own account and get things where you want them and actually play around before you turn around and hit like a submit button where we would actually submit it to us for review. So you could actually play with this stuff yourself and actually get these things integrated and set up before needing to involve Twilio at all. And alongside of that is also an API for both developer installation and vendor self-service. So you could actually get these built out with your own APIs as opposed to having going through the UI. So that's basically all I have. This is the URL to get to the published details on the website. And I think we're doing questions out in the hallway when we're done here. So thank you very much. I hope you guys have a lot of interesting ideas about how you want to get the stuff into the marketplace, and I'm happy to answer questions out the hallway.